This actually is a rant. You can see here on this post here. This is not a rant. It's a real question for creative teams and brands. Below, you'll find a comparison between two images. On the left, one of my hand-drawn illustrations created with care, humor, a personal point of view. On the right, an AI version prompted to be similar. Result: flat, soulless, plastic smiles. So, obviously, with great power comes great responsibility. And we're seeing now the proliferation of what I consider to be a suite of black hat AI applications as opposed to white hat applications. Am I interested in AI from a language revitalization standpoint? Of course. From medicine? Of course. From aggregating great big data lakes and scrubbing information? Of course. But like this stuff, like Jordan B. Peterson, Jordan, Jorden, and it's all like, it's so bad. It's so bad. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I personally think the people who are often guilty of just because we can, they don't pause to think, should we? They're the same ones who sort of like piss in the well, or as Michael Moore years ago said, that the corporation, they'll sell you the rope that you use to hang them with if they think that they can make a buck at it. And that's exactly the thinking in the black hat application. But this isn't new. This isn't the first time that you've seen like a technology wave come in and completely saturate the market on the heels of all of the prophecies of the, paperless office, or the nobody's going to go to movies anymore because of VCRs, or there's not going to be any like gouache and watercolor architectural rendering illustrators anymore because the computer's going to do it. It's like when the camera came in and the artists who used to occupy a position in the caste system up there with the philosophers and the lawyers and the bankers, the doctors, dentists, lawyers, engineers, whatever. It's like, well, we don't need you anymore. You've been made obsolete. And it's like, okay, well, to one type of thinking, you might think that yes, the creators have been rendered obsolete by AI, except for that the people who would say that don't know what they don't know, and it's obvious to the people who do know that the people who would say such a thing don't know what they don't know. It's because it has to do with the difference between tactics and strategy. AI is scrubbing and learning on examples of tactics, and the salespeople are lauding it as being something that understands strategy. It's like if somebody looks at an artistic style, cubism or whatever, and thinks that they've got the recipe dialed in. So then or even better, let's say I'm not indigenous and I look at indigenous style and I'm doing a project, and I'd be like, oh, one of those West Coast styles would be pretty good. So I emulate it, I copy it, and then I put it in front of the elders. And the elders are like, what the hell is this? Like, it's all wrong. And I'm like, what do you mean it's all wrong? I don't know even what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know in terms of what would make that wrong. I'm asserting that in many cases, AI doesn't know what it doesn't know about why something's wrong. And so the people who are making the AIslop music and the AIslop images and the AIslop videos, it's like, to the exclusion of somebody who does know the rules so that they can break the rules, whether it's in music or whether it's in other types of creative places. People who know the rules and then who strategically know how to break the rules can recognize other creations where people either have or don't have the foundational knowledge. And when some hack wants to like ask AI to make some West Coast indigenous artwork and then put it on Etsy and sell it and do all of this, cultural appropriation is what you'd call it in that avenue. But it is as a representation of saturation. The prophecy here was that the explainer videos, like everyone, like, oh, the explainer videos, that increases conversion and retention. And I'm like, yeah, for about 3 months until people are so sick of it and it's fake. And your brain can feel that it's fake. The same way that you can feel that the freaking Jordan B. Peterson content is ridiculous. Same thing. Rick Beato talks a lot about, the threat is now, will these new AI tools make songwriters irrelevant in 2025? In my opinion, we've seen this before, and the Achilles heel of AI is that it's only as good as the instructions that you give it. And it's also training on tactics. It's not training on strategy, in my opinion. And of course, some Silicon Valley guys who live in their basement and never changed a diaper in their life would be like, no, I beg to differ. I'm like, dude, in the end, storytelling around a campfire wins. Just like it has before. There's still people sending faxes in 25. There's still people going to movie theaters, well, sort of, in 2025. And there's still going to be appetite. I believe that the prophecies of the annihilation of illustrators were inflated, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the technological wizards, like, I like this video because I kind of feel like there's a tenuous relationship between sales and project management and the agency owner and the creative. You're like, why do we have to have these kids around here? Like, can't they get a haircut? Can't they, like, I can't work with this kid. I'm like, you can't work without him, because this project manager, she would replace him with an AI bot in a heartbeat.
All right, so the next change the client...
She's like, why do we have to do this? Why do we seriously have to have this kid around here working on his Mac?
The next change the client wants to make is...
The fact is, they need each other. And I'm not saying you can't leverage AI for good or do amazing things with it, but like some of the defining features of 80s music is like synthesizers, or some of the defining features of design is sort of like digital desktop publishing. But people are still cutting layout paper and they're still using gouache, and in some ways people pay extra for cut layout paper and for people who know how to use watercolor paint. Like, the more you tighten your grip, AI, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. You can't flood the illustration annuals with computer graphics of like reboot dinosaurs and think that you're not gonna at the same time create a stage upon which the authentic stuff won't stand out. And likewise, the authentic stuff, like you're seeing it in the form of physical media, like the resurgence of these. You're gonna see these on the subway a lot. People listening to Kenny Rogers the Gambler on a cassette, just as a pushback to the enshittification of everything. And I personally think that the tipping point is nigh at hand. Why? Because the same usual suspects are like just flooding the internet with this stuff. The economies of scale, efficiency, driven relationship, or the project manager in the previous video. That's the guy Kawasaki. You have to ship something. Just ship it. I'm like, well, you can ship it, but the old Apple was careful about what they shipped. If you ship garbage, then your reputation is garbage. And a lot of this stuff, at worst, the AI generated stuff, it's garbage. So I would assert that if the person who's using the tool understands the rules and understands baseline how to adhere to the rules, and then also knows how to break the rules, then it's going to be fine. But if a bunch of like McMonkey McBeans are coming and chopping down trufula trees, and you think that the brown barbaloots aren't going to get crummies in their tummies, or that the starbelly sneeches, or the ones without, are not going to get hustled, I think that's not the case. Another example of a technological disruption wave that then settled into an equilibrium is what happened with stock. And I remember when, prior to broadband, people would purchase discs, CDs, and then DVDs with images, maybe a short video, probably not even, but bandwidth was like ADSL dial-up. You weren't pushing content through the web, and so you still had to rely on physical media to deliver your stuff. So then there's these collections, and where these collections break down or remind me of the master control program that thinks it knows everything but doesn't know what it doesn't know, is the way that these collections they can't reconcile ideal and real very well. Okay, so there were no digital cameras, and if you wanted an image of something, you had to go shoot it. And then there was digital cameras, and anybody could upload everything, and you had the rise of the micropayment. And in the same way that creators now are like, oh, AI, photographers were like, oh, digital cameras. Okay, so I'm saying I'm aware of the efficiency that can be conferred upon creators by being able to go to iStock and download a clip-masked styrofoam cup for my creative. It's fine. The creative isn't so nuanced that it can't be serviced by a collection of stock, and that's great. There's a critical mass. There's an amount of creative that is well serviced by the micropayment or the royalty free, right? But when the creative is so nuanced that you can't build your video, so this is by stock, then the person who knows the rules well enough to break the rules has something to do. So do a search for senior citizen and see if you can find on the entry level senior citizen content any of these pictures where people don't have perfect teeth, right? Like, it's so not realistic. In other words, the glut of hyper idealized monopolizes the market to the extent that it ends up being like homogenous. Same thing here. Like, it's always the teeth that are the tell. They will never, unless you pay extra. This is what I'm saying. Authenticity isn't going away. You're just going to have to pay extra for it. You flood the market with AIslop. If you actually want stock footage of people, of seniors who actually have the teeth that look like the teeth of the seniors that you see when you're riding the subway, you're going to have to pay extra. Like that one, obviously, like AI. But is AI smart enough to make crooked teeth? Unless you ask for it. Right? No. So that's a tell. Do a search for indigenous as well. It's like the stock collections are like, this image is great except for the teeth. I spent a lot of time as an image researcher, and so for me, I know the tells in terms of the entry level, economies of scale driven, hyper idealized glut, right? And that's what I'm experiencing again, is the glut of ideal at the expense of real. But the notion that people are not going to be able to distinguish real, I'm saying we've seen this before when people become completely enamored by the ideal at the expense of the real. But eventually, there'll be a critical mass of this AI slop, and people are going to want to go home. They're going to want to sit in a kitchen, and they're going to want their grandma to make them ravioli or, a pot roast with potatoes and onions and carrots in it. They're not going to want the onboard ship computer to get them some tea, Earl Grey hot. Why? Because the tea, Earl Grey hot, is going to feel like I'm in the holodeck, like having a relationship with my virtual assistant. It's like, no, man, I want to really be in my real kitchen and have a real argument with my real wife because it's real, not because it's some ideal that's been created by people who don't know what they don't even know. It's like listening to some dude on stage talk about life, or listening to snowboarders pontificate about the purpose of life. And again, it's like, dude, just stick to the tricks, man. Like, talk to me when you've raised some kids about the purpose of life. But right now, just do the tricks, all right? Just do the tricks.